But without any further ado, I'd like to present our keynote speaker, Angel Santiago, a 5th grade teacher at Loring Fleming Elementary School in Blackwood, New Jersey, and the 2021 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. Take it away, Angel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to come back and work with you very, very special folks. Thank you to, Dr. Jeannie Del Colli, who you've been very instrumental in guiding me through this entire journey as New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. I respect your guidance and your opinions. And it's been well appreciated, as well as Steve, who's been leading our union, who's become a good friend of mine in the process. I appreciate your time, and Dean and Mikata for hosting this. And we have one boy behind the scenes. I know that doing the technical stuff is a difficult job. So thank you so much for your assistance. I would like to share some visuals with you, if I may. I'm a visual person, and I like to teach and to guide people using not just the voice, not just words, but also pictures and just visuals as well. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Angel Santiago. I'm New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. I'm also the Camden County Teacher of the Year for 2021. I'm an elementary school teacher in Loring Fleming, like was said earlier. I taught 3rd and 5th grade. Right now, I concentrate on English language arts. I've been teaching for 9 years, but I still feel fresh. I still feel new. I'm also the facilitator of a club called Young People of Character. We call it YPOC for short, that provides equitable leadership foundations for 4th and 5th grade students through community service. Some other passions, obviously, besides my work and my students who I care about immensely and their families. To be honest, I would not be in this situation without them. But, my family, my wife, who's also an educator. So education runs in our family. My son, Cruz, my 3-year-old, who's starting school next year. So we get to see it on the end of a parent. And then I have a little guy on the way, Mr. Sebastian, who will be here in August. We're very excited to meet him. I'm also a musician, a DJ. I'm a music lover. As you can see, it's part of who I am. I use it quite often in my pedagogy. And for the last 3 months, I've been working with the Department of Education and other organizations on different initiatives, from ACES to celebrating International Social, Emotional, and Learning Day, which is actually happening right now as we speak, March 26th, #SEL Day. I've also been working on gathering data and information and looking for best practices in districts that are trying to diversify their teacher workforce. I've also done some equity work with the Office of Professional Learning. But this new job that I have right now has been one of the most exciting, and that's inspiring the new generation of teachers, the generation that we get to pass that baton of prestige and compassion to. And, as I speak to you today, I will speak to you in a forward manner. I'm going to let you know that this type of profession, it is hard. It's difficult, but it's also heart work too. It's the type of job that feeds the soul. But I can guarantee you, if you can form some promising connections and lead with your heart through every twist, through every turn of this journey, I promise you that there is no better profession on the planet. Now, in the beginning, I actually did a roundtable with last year's State Teacher of the Year, Miss Kimberly Dixon Hughes, and I told you about the people who inspired me to become a teacher. But today I want to actually take you to the point in which I knew what type of teacher I wanted to become. I was a late bloomer. I didn't begin college till I was 24. Think about that. I was a 24-year-old freshman. Some of you will be starting next year. You're going to have a 4-year jump on me. Yeah, I spent the years of 18 through 24 as a professional musician. And when I say that quite loosely. I was sleeping on couches in overcrowded hotel rooms and playing to 50 people a night. But nonetheless, it was an exciting time in my life. And it was a great experience that's part of who I am today. But when my band broke up, I came back home. I always had aspirations to become an educator. And although music was a passion of mine, education was that career that I knew was going to be my contribution to the world. So I immediately enrolled into community college, worked some part-time jobs. I took on my prereqs and graduated with an associate's degree from Cumberland County College in liberal arts and education. And as great as an accomplishment as that was, I was only the second person in my family to ever get a degree. I was stuck at a crossroads in my life. I really didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know what I wanted to teach. I didn't have that sense of purpose, that calling, so to say, that I felt was very important to be an educator. My best friend, Brad, he was also the guitar player of my band. He just moved down to Orlando. He was inviting me down. He's like, come on, Angel, come on down to Florida. We'll go to Full Sail University. We'll become audio engineers, which is a fancy term for someone who makes the volume go up and down. It was enticing, right? So I was like thinking to myself, warm weather, palm trees, Disney World, possibly music. So I bought a plane ticket. I went down there and I checked it out. I visited him. We visited the entire state of Florida from Key West to Miami. It was an amazing time. And as awesome as that trip was, something just kept pulling me back home. I had no responsibilities at that time. I could have stayed in Florida, but something kept on pulling me back home. And that was the fact of the matter, that I knew that my heart was set on teaching. When I got back from Florida, my professor right here, Dr. Donna Bender, a beautiful soul, she was also the director of Cumberland's educational program at the time. She dedicated some office hours to the graduates of the education program to try to map out our next steps. And so we spent, she and I spent 2 days just hashing out some of my story, some of those deep traumas almost of my relationship with my father, who left at a very early age. We also talked about my intentions of becoming a positive role model, especially for kids who were growing up at a very early age without that positive male role model, especially those male role models of color. And she proceeded to provide me with literature about the deficit of men in elementary education in our nation, especially Latinx or Latino men, who currently right now only make up 2% of the national teacher population. And that didn't take very long. You see, I was concentrating on the wrong thing. I was concentrating on the content area. I didn't know whether I wanted to teach history or science. I thought that was what's going to make me what I would be happy about. Every day teaching the same subject of something that I enjoyed. And don't get me wrong, content is extremely important, but it's not the most important thing in education. My heart was set on being an elementary school teacher because I fell in love with the people, the who I was going to teach, and not the what. As teachers, we teach people, and the lessons that you will offer to your students when you get into this journey will go far beyond the textbook or the standards in which your students are meant to master. You teach people for 7 to 8 hours a day, 180 days plus a year. These students are going to be in your presence, learning how you interact with people, how you speak with people, how you care about them, how you've overcome your adversity, your authenticity. They will be monitoring you as a human being. So I believe it's our duty to present them the best model that we can possibly present. You see, teaching, once again, is hard work, but it's also heart work based on your morals and principles that will ultimately guide you in this career and provide you a profession that will bring you both joy and pride. I've been in the profession for 9 years. The journey has had its ups and downs, but there were some lessons that I learned along the way that I'd like to share with you today. I call them heart truths because they live inside my heart. They are the foundation of my pedagogy, and I know that I can rely on them for inspiration and guidance. Heart truth number one, and this goes directly to you folks right now who are in high school and starting your college careers. Your grades as a student will not determine your effect on your students. Heart truth number two, flexibility, and I know Steve alluded to this before, flexibility is key. And then hard truth number 3, another thing that Steve alluded to is making those positive connections. I can guarantee you they will be the lifeline to a happy and long career. So let's talk about hard truth number 1. Your academic career as a student will not determine your efficacy as a teacher. I can promise you. Listen, whether you graduated with honors, took all AP classes, had a 4.0 in high school and college, will not necessarily determine how good of a teacher you will become. And I'm not here to downplay those accomplishments. In fact, they're truly impressive and definitely will assist your journey as an educator. But I wouldn't be telling you the truth if I said that those mattered to my students. You know, I was one of those students. I had a great college GPA. I don't think I ever told my students that at all in my class. They really didn't matter to them. And I wouldn't be telling you the truth and would be remiss to not note that some of the best educators that I've ever met, especially this last year, experienced lots of hardship and difficulties with their own educational experience and their lives. You see, right now I have the honor of conversing and being in meetings with diverse honored educators from all 50 states and various territories of the US and get to listen to their stories about what propelled them into the national spotlight of honored educators. And the common denominator was resilience. I've heard beautiful stories of how these educators overcame adverse childhood experiences, from drug abuse to gang violence, and rose above that to become shining role models for their students, their families, their colleagues, and to represent their states at the highest level in education. When your students are open about their academic and personal struggles, being able to use these real life examples of resilience, that is what matters. These students need to know that you can empathize with them. And sharing these stories is one of our greatest gifts, one of our greatest tools to help show that we understand. Assuring them that they have someone who cares about their well-being, who will support them through the difficult times, be it academically or personally. That is what matters. Investing in their growth as a whole human being and not just their academics, that shows authenticity. You see, these bits and pieces of times between classes and transitions during lunch, on the playground, after school, where we talk about the health and well-being of their families, their hobbies, their lives, and their dreams, and not necessarily on the essays that are due or the homework that's missing. That shows how authentic we are. That shows them that we have compassion for them as human beings. It shows them that we care. And as you move forward in your journey, some of you are going to move off into your college careers and others will continue your public school education. There will be times where this journey will be difficult. But those may end up being your greatest assets. Hold on to those difficult times, because those stories of resilience and perseverance, those are the stories that you can store so that you can use in those little bits and pieces of times outside the textbook, outside the lessons in the curriculum. Those life lessons that facilitate the growth of the whole student. Because those authentic life lessons usually end up being the most memorable. Here's hard truth number 2. Let me just start off by saying, right, flexibility is key, but it's already inside your DNA. I'm talking to a generation of students who have continued the learning process in the midst of a global pandemic. My hat's off to all of you. These are all unprecedented times, and here you are, as resilient as ever. This year has been difficult for both teachers and students, but the fact that you're here with me right now speaks volumes on your character. And that flexibility and adaptiveness, that's the trait that is a necessity in the world of education. And let's be honest, right? Complacency is a killer of growth. I think of one reason of why I entered this profession, and it was because every day brought something new and challenging to my life. I can tell you in the last 9 years in my classroom, there was never a time where I would consider myself bored. 25 fifth graders tend to find a way to keep things interesting, to say the least. But there's so much more than just curriculum changes and changes in day-to-day activities that require flexibility. As teachers, we have to be comfortable with change and sometimes being outside of our comfort zones. After all, that's when true growth occurs. And this is a life of learning that we are pursuing right now. This profession requires us to work with all different demographics of students, from a diverse array of cultures and learning styles to ethnicities that may be unfamiliar to us. And that's okay. This pandemic has shown us that equity is extremely important, and it has come to the forefront of the educational world. Our job is to be flexible and to make sure we're offering every opportunity and support for our students to be successful in their classrooms, in the curriculum, and in life in general. And think about the many times in your academic career where you may have been denied an opportunity because of your academic status, or whether your parents or guardians could afford to support you or buy you materials for a project. Think about the opportunities missed because you just couldn't find a ride home. See, it's our duty to make sure that every student has a chance in the classrooms to express what they've learned by using their strengths. This requires us to dig deeper, to realize that every student has something to contribute, an asset that is 100% vital to our classroom culture. It's important that our students are able to share themselves as whole and not just a part. Their likes, their hobbies, their cultures, their languages, those things need to be embraced, referenced often, and displayed upon the walls of the classroom and the entire school. And I get it, it's impossible for us to know about every single culture in the world. But this is an opportunity where you can let your students teach. And that's the beauty about this profession, when the teacher is able to let go of facilitating and the students can offer their expertise, their feelings, their emotions and thoughts on certain topics. But it's up to us to create those brave spaces, the type of environment that invites our students to open up. Sometimes that means we have to be flexible and adjust our curriculum to provide those opportunities to celebrate diversity. Last year in Lauren Fleming, we had our first ever Black History, Women's History interactive museum. Our students put together exhibits from statues to artworks and pieces to even interactive computer games. And we invited the entire community to this event. I've never seen the kids work so hard in their life. It was an absolute hit. A week later, COVID came upon us and our schools shut down. But these students were still riding high on the residue of that project, that they were not going to let remote learning spoil the end of their year. And far too often we feel stuck to a pacing guide or curriculum, but we have to be flexible and find those spaces outside the textbooks to make the educational experience culturally relevant, meaningful, so that our students can find a lasting connection. And when we reference those moments outside of the classroom, for some of us, we will facilitate clubs that are outside of the classroom and sports outside of the mainstream public education spectrum. You see, in this area, we find where inequities can go somewhat unnoticed. When I first started YPOC, Young People of Character, many thought that it was redundant. Our school had a safety patrol, which some thought was similar to the leadership mission of YPOC. But YPOC was so much more than just leadership. It was also growth, of being proud of being a stakeholder of the school and the community that my students represented. My YPOC kids don't always have the best grades. Some of them may have disciplinary issues, and some may have never held leadership positions in their entire life. But I wanted to offer an experience for those students who are often overlooked for many opportunities, a chance to feel like they can make a positive difference in the world. Some of you will seek out these similar positions, and it would be easy to include the honor students, or the ones with the best attendance, or the ones who consistently score high on tests, or the ones who have constant parental support. That's easy, but ask yourself, is that equitable? So when you do come across these opportunities to facilitate a club or extracurricular program, remind yourself what brilliant talent you may exclude because they can't get a ride home, or they haven't been the most ideal student, or they're just simply having an issue getting a permission slip signed. Look for that asset that these students bring. Be flexible, take a little extra time, and open those doors of opportunities. Chances are, if you're sitting here right now with us, listening to my words, someone has done that for you. And my last hard truth, and one that I think is very important in the longevity and the health of your career, is building those strong, positive connections. Building connections with our students is the most vital skill a new teacher must learn. The relationship between teacher and student is the most essential relationship within the public school education. Some teachers take an interest inventory at the beginning of the year and store that inventory to possibly plan lessons around those interests. And that's a very sound practice. But building relationship with our students is much more than that. We have to understand that in today's educational world, we aren't just facilitating academic growth. We are facilitating the growth of the students so that they are better people. We are teaching empathy. We are teaching compassion, social problem solving, goal setting, and many other practical skills that will translate to a healthy, positive individual. And we could not possibly do that alone. It is extremely true when we say it takes an entire village to accomplish such a feat. Building a connection to our students' home will show them that we are committed to them and their education. Gloucester Township has become my second home. The families have supported me every step of the way in my journey as New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. They are the reason why I am here today. And it's because they know that for 8 hours that their child was with me, that their child was safe, engaged, and that there was another individual outside their immediate family and friends who had their child's best interests and intentions at heart. They become part of my extended family, and I part of theirs. And when we talk about family, the connections to our colleagues is probably the single most important factor in our happiness and success and longevity as a teacher. Lauren Fleming is my family, no doubt. We succeed together. We celebrate new life together and baby showers and weddings. You know, I'm blessed to have individuals who I believe wholeheartedly could be all considered teachers of the year. You know, we are as strong as a unit as there is out there. And for me, it's the constant learning opportunity from that family in LF. And even to the newest professional communities that this Teacher of the Year experience has offered me. You know, with applications that came out of this pandemic, like Zoom, our connections can reach the far corners of the globe. Just weeks ago, I taught a lesson on irregular verbs to a class in India. A couple months ago, I had a viral TikTok teacher who is an expert on self-care and social emotional learning visit my YPOC kids. Your connections are limited only to the confines of the World Wide Web. Professional learning communities and connections are so important to establish in order to succeed. So it's never too late or never too early to start. So my call to action to you is to start today. Start with your classmates who are here with you on this meeting. Reach out to them, plan together, go through this entire journey as a unit, support each other. Use social media to connect, to begin these groups, these affinity groups and pages on Facebook of common interests, to share resources. Use social media to amplify the accomplishments of your organizations, of your profession, to connect with teachers abroad. You see, the future of education will rely on global professional learning groups. So why not start and reach out today? You'll never know when you may rely on these connections to bring your teaching to the next level. You see, the scale and scope of your global connections are unlimited. With that being said, start with me. Add me to one of your connections. As you can see, I have all different types of media. I'm not very active on TikTok, but I do post things that are relevant to education. But please add me to your connections. And once again, I'd like to thank Dr. Dini Del Colli for her invitation, her assistance in helping me figure out this position of Teacher of the Year, being part of one of my professional learning communities. I'm very grateful for that opportunity. And to all of you who showed up, who have showed your resilience and your interest in becoming a teacher, even in the midst of a global pandemic, I applaud you. I can't wait to get you in our classrooms. And just one more thing before I go. Embrace the ups and downs of this journey. Use your stories of resilience, be flexible, and start making those positive connections today. And I promise you, this profession will be food for your soul. So bless you all, stay safe and healthy, enjoy the rest of your day of professional and personal growth. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Angel, for an absolutely inspiring presentation today. That was fantastic. And I'm sure our students will get a lot out of this. At this time, I'd also like to invite we have 9 student ambassadors, the Center for Future Educators this year. And so we have our student leaders that we would like to invite in to actually contribute to our conversation today. So I'm going to ask that Elise and Olivia actually, there we go, beam in, here we go. So let me make sure we can pin you guys too. Hold on, pin. All righty, so today we have, or this morning, we'll have more this afternoon, but this morning we have 2 of our student ambassadors for the Center for Future Educators. We have Elise Lerner, who is a senior at Sayreville War Memorial High School, and Miss Olivia Gray, who is a sophomore at Passaic County Technical Institute. So Elise, go ahead and take it away.
Hi, everybody. Okay. So ever since I was a little girl, being a teacher is what I have known I wanted to be. When I was younger, I had my basement set up as a classroom, and here I would play teacher. The top of the walls were filled with the alphabet. I had a teacher's desk and all the other supplies such as pencils, a dry erase board, and other educational posters hung up around the room. When I entered 2nd grade, I met my teacher, the teacher that I aspire to be. She made learning fun, and I still remember everything from that year. Ever since then, I knew I wanted to teach at the elementary school level. When I got to high school, I worked extra hard, also being involved in Tomorrow's Teachers to get closer to my goal. I will be attending the College of New Jersey in the fall of 2021, studying elementary education. Teaching to me means giving knowledge to children that they need to grow and become whatever they set their hearts to. In the end, teaching has been my dream since before I could talk, and knowing that I will get to have an impact on children's lives amazes me. Someday, I could be the teacher that inspires the next generation of teachers just like my teachers inspired me.
And thank you, Elise. And we will see you at TCNJ in the fall. Very excited to have you join our crew.
I'm excited.
Olivia.
So hello, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Del Colli. I hold the art of education in high esteem and aspire to become a teacher who influences future generations of children by providing learning experiences that persist beyond the limitations of the classroom. I firmly believe in the ability for children to exceed society's expectations, particularly students of color, and I feel it is my personal obligation to shine light on those underrepresented, gifted, and talented children of impoverished communities. I will work to help my students beat the odds and help them in their developmental journey from early learners to future leaders and kind citizens, despite where they come from. To me, an educator is more than a classroom instructor or the child's authoritative foundation for primitive learning, but to build moral and ethical fundamentals of society. Children must be uplifted, curious, and most importantly, valued. Without a doubt, I will love and care for every student in my classroom and have them engage in experiences which demonstrate the power of paying it forward. In plain terms, I want to be a teacher to help students learn from and love one another because that impact will stand the test of time. Thank you.
And those are our fabulous student ambassadors. We've got 9 of them this year, located in all different regions of the state, 3 in the northern area, 3 in the central region, 3 in the south, and they have just done a fabulous job this year. You're going to see a few more of them this afternoon. 2 of them will actually be moderating our in-service panel, and then we'll have 2 more of our ambassadors talking about why they want to teach. So I'm really excited to have them with us this year. They've been a great asset to the organization. And so thank you so much for tuning in this morning. We'll see you again in a couple of hours, and enjoy your breakout sessions.